Alright. Okay, so we'll start with this first one. 10 random whole numbers between 50 and 175. Alright, so I did ask here that we want to create an array to store the numbers in. Alright, so we want to now store 10 random whole numbers. So how would we create that array? Can any of you remember? That was the end of our last lesson. I showed you how we would create an array to store 10 whole numbers. Okay, yeah, yeah. Let's see. Okay. Yes. And then we'll just, yes, 100%. Alright, so we'll just do our array from 0 to 9. 0 to 9 is 10 spaces and all of them are integer. Alright, so now, because when I want 10 random whole numbers, what do I need? A variable for what? Yes, so let's just create it. Okay, I integer. Alright, so now if I want to do 10 random whole numbers, what do I need? With the emphasis on the 10. Yes. And then we have to do now. So for this one, we're going to also go then from 0 to 9. So we want our for loops positions to line up with the spaces in our array. Alright, now we've got our for loop running. Alright, what do I do inside the for loop? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, R for like array. Yes, you can say R. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, R num, yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Oh yes. Otherwise, trying to range doesn't work. Um, okay, let's quickly finish this, and then I'll quickly run through that. Then we say random range. Yes. All right. So let's quickly go through that. Who asked that? Radia, was that you that asked? All right. Did you miss the previous lesson? I can't remember. Oh, okay. All right. So let's quickly go through that again. So, what an array does, an array is basically a variable, but that can store multiple values. So, by us creating this, it is the same as if we created a num1 and a num2 and a num3, but 10 times all of type integer. So, instead of us having to create 10 variables of type integer, we can create an array with spaces from 0 to 9. So if you count nicely, you'll see because we start at 0, it's 0 and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's actually 10 numbers. So this rnum has got 10 spaces to store 10 integer numbers for us. So if we take an Excel, um, I love Excel because that's sort of how our RAM will store information. So if you create a variable num, it's a pointer that's created with one place to store a value. What an array does, if we say array num and then we give it, let's say, from 0 to 5 spaces. So what that actually does, it creates, the name is rnum, but then it's got positions 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So it actually created 6 spots for us in RAM where values can be stored. So an array is nothing more than a variable, but that can store more than one value. So our problem previously with our previous programs was that you can store one value. Like, remember with our previous program, what we did, let's say we did this second one, 10 random odd numbers. So what we did, we created a variable, let's say num, type integer, and I, and then remember what we did, we had our for loop, which went from 0 to 9, and there we went begin, and then we set our num variable gets the value of random range, and we gave it, it doesn't matter what it's for now, we'll fix it later. So let's just say we gave it that, and then we went and we displayed it, our display, dot lines dot add, and we displayed our num. We just needed our into string. Alright, so the problem we had with this way of doing it is it worked fine if we played this program and we click the second button. It displayed the numbers for us, but now the issue with this is the only number that's still saved technically is number 13, the last value. Because what this one did, if we looked at our code, it generated this number by random range and then put it in num and then it displayed it. And then it generated the next number, 26, and that would have been stored in num and then displayed. So the 25 is forgotten, only 26 is remembered. And then we generate 34 and put that into num. So now these top two were forgotten. So we never actually saved all the numbers themselves. So now, like what we want to do is, let's say I wanted you to sort these numbers from small to big or big to small. We can't actually, because we've only got the last value that's stored in a variable. All the rest were basically displayed and forgotten. So we can't use them now. So we can't fix this. So that's where our arrays is going to help. What we are doing, we're creating basically a variable to store all 10 values. And as we generate them, we're putting them into the array, so that we can later then go and shuffle them, do whatever else we want to do. Our main aim with this is to start sorting them, to add a number, to remove a number, to maybe change a number, to increase all the numbers by 5, to do random things with all of the numbers, getting the totals, getting the averages, and so forth. So that's where arrays come in. So it allows us to store the values in a structure so that we can do things with it. All right. Yeah, no problem. Okay, so the good thing about this as well, because we're working with arrays, we've got the square brackets and we can put the variable I inside. So it will use array num 0 and then array num 1, and then array num 2, and array num 3. So this value will change as the for loop runs. We'll generate a random number, put it into 0. Then I becomes 1, generate a random number, put it in array 1. Then I becomes 2, generate a random number, put it in array num 2. And then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Then all 9 spaces are filled with that. The only thing that we're missing here is we haven't displayed this yet. So what can I do to display this? Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yes. All right. So let's quickly see how this works. If we click our first one, there's our numbers. Between 50 and 75, all whole numbers, and we're happy. All right, let's quickly do for the next one. So now we want 10 random odd whole numbers with 2 digits. All right, so what we do need to know or remember or learn, something new that I'll teach you now, is by creating variables in here. These ones, like using the var there, are called local variables. So what that means what this means is that this array is only, and this variable, so both of them, everything we create as local variables, they only exist inside this button. As soon as we close the button, like if we want to use our arnum here, we're going to get an error. And it's going to tell us undeclared identifier, arnum, because it didn't work there. So we need to create these ones just again there. Right. So now we want the 10 numbers again. So we're happy with the for loop. Our random range, however, is wrong. We want odd numbers, and they must be 2 digits. So we want to ignore that. Ethan, you don't need to be too quiet. If you want to jump in, please. Otherwise, the three of you, remember, Navashan is not here tonight to give us all the answers. So you guys must step in. Mwandla is doing good so far. So we mustn't leave her out hanging. Alright, so what do you think we need? Tell me, what do I need to do here? So we've got like a half a program here. Help me fix it to get this. Yes. I know. Square brackets. Alright, so how this works, in our arnum, this thing is just called arnum, but then we've got these like positions. Radio, just quickly mute again for me there, and then so how this works, just when we refer to arnum only, it will actually give us an error because arnum is this whole thing. Think of it like it's like a street. This is the street name, and then we have to say, like if you want to go to a party to somebody's house, you can't just say Church Street. You have to say Church Street number 3 or number 7 or whatever. And that's sort of how this also works. So this one's like direct identifier is arnum with 0. And this one is called arnum with a 1. And then it wanted to do everything for what I wanted it to do. Oh. Okay, in any case, then arnum 2 and arnum 3. You see, so their individual names, like when we just created a single variable, was just num because it's only one place. But in this case, this one's name is actually arnum, but with a 0 in the brackets. arnum1, arnum2, arnum3. So as we do this now, we want to put in different values in all 10 spaces, which goes from position 0 to 9. So that's what the I does for us. The for loop, our for loop variable I, goes from 0 to 9. So the first time it runs it's 0, next time it runs it's 1, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this for loop basically helps us with the identifiers, where we can say arnum at position 0 gets the first number, and then we display arnum 0. Then when we go up, I becomes 1, so then arnum 1 gets the next value, and we display arnum 1, and then it goes up, and then I becomes 2, and then it means arnum 2 will get a value, and we display arnum 2. Then it goes up, and then I becomes 3. And that will then carry on until 9, where arnum 9 will get a value, and we display arnum 9. Then the for loop will stop, and our array is complete. Alright, that's good. Alright, so help me with random range. If I wanted odd and 2 digits, what do I do? Not sure. Alright. Ethan, do you have an idea for us? Oh, okay, no problem. Alright, so this one, I specifically, because we always did the even, and the even got easy, sort of. So that's why I threw in the odd here, just to... what is it? What's it? See. Okay, no problem. Alright, so what we do here is there's there's a few different ways we can do this. Radia, you've got a question? Oh, thank you. Alright, so we can either generate an even number and just make it odd, or we can use our if statement. So let's go the if route. Help me, if I just wanted a 2-digit number, what will my range be? What's my smallest 2-digit number I can get? Yes, so 10, but why would we not use 99? What is our highest 2-digit? Is 99, so what should we put? Yes, remember our second piece is exclusive, so we need to have 100 there. Alright, so this will give us a 2-digit. Now we're happy with that. Now we just need to make it odd. So how can I see with the if statement if a number is odd or not? Or even, for that matter. Yes, so we can mod it by 2, and if that is equal to 0, then our r num I must just become whatever r num I was plus 1. Oh, the then. Okay, let's just do that. Yes, so what we do, let's see. Hey, Shreya! Better late than never. Okay, quickly give me 30 seconds. I just quickly want to put the light on here. It got very dark very quick. So if we take our number we generated and we divide it by 2 and the remainder is 0, that meant it's an even number and we want it odd. So then we just add 1 to our number. So our number becomes whatever it was plus 1. And then we can just display it afterwards. And that would give us an odd number. The other way you could have gone is you could have generated an even number. And remember what we do with the even normally, we half that. So we could have gone 5 and 50. And then went times 2, which made it even. And then you just say plus 1. Because any even number but plus 1 would make it odd as well. So you could have gone that route. Let me maybe just put it in comments. So we could have gone that route, but then say half it. Because remember, for our even ones, we always halved it so that we can go times 2. Now it's an even one, but then we can just add 1 afterwards. So that would have created, then you didn't need the if or any of that. That would have created the odd one. Between the two, if you did this way or that way with all the ifs, so both would get full marks. So it doesn't matter which one. I want to say in tests, normally we just struggle for time. So the one you think of first, just do that one. It really doesn't matter. This person obviously will just get it done a bit quicker. But I want to say there's a little bit more thinking involved and easier to make a mistake. While this one is a little bit less thinking, where you just generate number and just add. And then less easier to make a mistake. But it will take more time because you're typing more stuff. So it's whichever one you want to, doesn't matter actually. Alright, and that's our odd one. Alright, now we go 10 random whole even numbers with 3 digits. So when we create our variables, I just want to jump through this. So we'll do exactly the same thing. It's again 10 numbers. So we do our var with our arnam, which is an array from 0 to 9. Let's just run through this again. So we'll give it a name. We call it arnam. We go colon. We know we're doing an array. So we say array. And then if you control space, gives you the 2 options. We'll choose option C. And then because we only want 10 spaces, we only need to go from 0 to 9. Because 0 is a place. So it's 0 and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, which is 10 spaces of type integer. Now, this piece I always delete. Some of you might wonder, hey, why is this here? Why do we always delete it? So if we've got this here, this is when we want to start with values. Let's say we wanted to give it the values of 5 and 2 and 7 and 34 and 67 and 9. So you could have given it numbers 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10. Yeah. So you could have given these numbers, then your array starts with these numbers already inside. But it's like constants. It's not a constant, but I mean, you start with it, initialize the array. So you start with those values. But we don't want that. We want to generate our own numbers. So that's why we just take it out. Yes. So remember, this is in the for loop. So it will generate the first one, times it by 2 plus 1, and we'll display it. And then the next one, it will generate it again, times it by 2 plus 1, and then display it. Then the next one, generate the number times 2 plus 1, display it. So because it's all inside the for loop, everything in the for loop, all of this stuff will happen 10 times. So it will do it with all 10 of the numbers and place all of those numbers into our array so that we can use it later on. Alright. Okay. And then, alright, we've done that one now. Alright, so, yeah, so sometimes, let's say you wanted to work with the provinces. I just wanted to show you quickly. You can go and say, create like an array for the provinces. And then you can say it should be an array type C. This one will be of string. And then you can go and say, then like, KZN and then Eastern Cape. So, and then those values are already inside the array that you can use to display whatever you want to do with it. So that's sometimes when it is nice to have this. It's like if you've got like fixed values that you already want in. Alright, but in any case, that was for interest sake. Alright, let's do this one. So we want 10 numbers again. So to do 10 numbers, what do we need? Yes, well done. So a for loop from 0 to 9 to begin. So again, random what? Oh, the for loop. So what I do, I just say for, and then I press the tab key. Once you press the tab key, it gives you all that. Um, Not for everything. So a lot of them works for, and then you can press something like, in my case, it's the tab key. But then you also like the array one. What I did there, I gave it a name, array num, and then I went colon, and then I went arr, I mean, and then I went control space. So in this place, I went my ctrl plus the space. So with that one, it worked like that. As soon as you go whatever name, colon, and then arr, control space, it gave me this list where I can choose from, and then it gave me all the rest. So it depends. It's generally either control space or tab that will give you like a shortcut into getting the structures sorted. All right. So I'll leave these comments here as well for us. But now in my for loop, I want, so we've got for loop will happen 10 times for us. So we've got the 10 sorted. I want random whole even numbers with 3 digits. So what can I do? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes. Okay. All right. Why 50 comma 500? Yes, and we want it even. So the 3 digits, remember that was actually between 100 and 999. Radia, I think it's yours again. Yeah, thank you. Um, so to make it even, our easiest way is to just half the range. So in our random range, we would have typed in the 100, comma 1000, because remember the last piece is excluded. So that to get that range. But now because it's even, we divide it by 2 to make it 50 and 500 to get that random number, and then just times by 2 would make it even. However, if you use this random range and you also just went with the if to see if it's maybe odd and then add 1, that's 100% fine. So this is just a shorter way, but doing it with the ifs would have been 100% fine as well. Alright, then after we generated the number, we just want to display it. Do you agree? Alright. Alright, and that's sort of where the homework was. Um, Everybody good with this? Any questions still on just the generating of random numbers and putting them into the array? Let me just quickly see how that looks. Oh, so the array type D, it's, well, it's actually the right one, but why didn't it? Let's quickly see if we say array D. Oh, okay, I see now how the array D works. So what you can do is if you type in array D and then you press tab, it actually gives you the name and exactly what we need. So D is probably the better one, actually, now that I think about it. I always, the control space only works after you started with your data type. And that's why the array D added this like afterwards. And then this confused me. But I realize now they want this as the name. Yeah, so maybe a shorter way is to type in array D and then press the tab key. Then it will give own name and then that stuff. Yeah, alright. Thank you. I never actually tried because it never. I had a way of working, and then if it works, then why fix it? But now because you asked, I looked and then found a better way. Thank you. Alright. Yeah. Okay. Otherwise, everyone else could do this. So now my next thing I want to show you is just a global variable, because did you see that we created the array here and then we had to create it here again, and up here we also created it. But when we're going to do the sort button, we actually want to, we want to use these numbers that we used. But I can't now create the array here again, then it will be empty. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just remove the array. I'm going to put it in comments in that button. I'm going to put it in comments in that button. And I'm going to put it in comments in that one. So you have to remove it from all the local spaces. And then what we do is on top here by the var, you can go and paste it there. So you'll see if you scroll up to the top of your program, there's a var section on top there as well. It should already have form 2 or something in there. And then if you paste your array there, what this does, this creates the variable as a global variable. Alright, so what this does, now this array works in all three of them. Can you see all three of them? Even though I removed the declaration, it works there, it works there, it works there. So now it's called a global variable because it works in all the buttons. And that we're going to need because now in our sort button, we can use that array without actually having it, or without having to create it down there, or putting values into it, because these buttons will put values into it. Alright, everybody got that? Global variable works everywhere. Local ones works just in the button. Uh, for which one? The I. Oh yes, yeah. You can put them there as well. So did you usually, do you know what the difference is between the public and the private? Okay. So with that, it's actually like second half grade 11. I'm going to teach you the difference between the two. So the private one is basically the same as in the year by the var. So this one is global for this class. The public one is when we start creating more than one program, more than one unit, and you want these variables to work in the other units as well. Then we'll put them by public. So public is also a global variable, but public can be used in other units as well. While this one here can only be used inside this unit because it's private. So only this unit can use it. But when we go public, you'll be able to use it in the other units as well. Alright. But yeah, as I said, end of grade 11, I'll run through that again. Alright. Now I want to look at our sort algorithm before the time catches us. So I started this thing. So let's assume we had an array called numbers. it had 5 spaces, and these 5 numbers were placed inside. So now we want to sort them. So the sort method I'm going to show you, or the algorithm we're doing, is called a bubble sort. So see bubble sort as, let's say we want to sort it from small to big. So what bubble sort will do is, it will look for the smallest number and it will float up like a bubble. So it looks for the smallest and it floats up, and then it looks for the second smallest and that floats up, and then the third smallest and floats up. So that's sort of what we're going to do. So I want you to keep track of the colors we're using. So I'm going to start there with light blue. So if I start at this number, how the bubble sort works, it means we want our smallest number to be right on top, because we want to do now from small to big. So we start at the top position, and now we start comparing all the other positions. So we'll compare this one to this one. Should these two numbers swap around? If I want the smallest one on top and I compare these two, do we want them to swap? No. Alright. So now our brown moves on. Do we want this one and that one to swap? Yes. So what it will do, it will put the 49 there for us. The 58 will stay where it was. And now the 54 will go there. And now brown moves on again. Do we want the 24 and the 49 to swap? Yes, we do. So now they will swap. So now 24 will be on top. The 58 will stay where it was. The 54 will stay where it was. And now this 49 will take into that one's position. And then the 52 and the 24, will that swap? So that will stay there. So that is the first, I want to say the first run through of our sorting. Now the top one is sorted. So now what happens is these numbers, let me just put it here, go on underneath. What it does now we start with the second one. So now this one is the blue, and this one we don't care about now because it's sorted. So now we compare 54 with 58. Should they swap? Yes. So we put the 54 there, and then the 58 goes there. Now we compare the 49 to the 54. Should they swap? Yes. So they go 49. 58 stayed where it was. 54 goes to his spot. And then 52 and 49, do they swap? No. So that one stay where it was. So now here we've got that one sorted. The 24 also stayed where it was. Sorry, I should have kept the 24 there. So now 24 is sorted, and our 49 is sorted. The top two is sorted. And that was the second time around. So see, blue was first, now blue was second. So now what we do is we take the same numbers, do it again. First two is sorted. So now blue starts by the third one. And now we do the same again. Do we want 54 and 58 to swap? Yes. And 58. And then do we want 52 and 54 to swap? Yes. And then 58 stays where it was. And the 52 goes, no, not 52. The 54 goes there now. And this 24 stayed where it was, and this 49 stayed where it was. So now these top three are sorted, and these two we still need to do. Alright, once we've done that, then we go here. Top three sorted, so now blue starts there. Now we compare 54 with 58. Should they swap? 54 with 58. And then the 52 stayed where it was, and the 49 and the 24. And then at this stage, do you agree it's all sorted once we're there? So that's basically what we did. So let's quickly see what happened here. Blue stayed on top to get the first one the smallest. Then blue went to the second one and it carried on to get the second one smallest. Then blue went to the third one to get the third smallest. Then blue went to the second to last to get the second to last smallest. And then blue never went to the last one because do you agree if everything else is sorted, then the last one will be the last one. We don't need to compare it with anything. That will already be sorted. What happened to brown? Can you see when blue was by 1, when the blue was at the first number, the brown went from 2 to 3 to 4 to 5. Then when blue was at 2, let's get this. When blue was at 2, brown started at 3, going to 4, going to 5. Then when blue was at 3, brown started at 4, going to 5. And then when blue was at 4, brown started at 5 to run through. So all of this is important things to think about. The last thing that I want us to also think about before we look at the answer of this. If we, like, remember when we compared and I asked you, do they need to swap? And we said, yes, they need to swap. If I want to swap two values, what is my algorithm for swapping two values? Can I go and say, let's say I had a variable here, a variable num1 and num2, and they were both integers, and then num1 had a value of 5 and num2 had a value of 3. But now I want them to swap around. I want the 3 in that variable and now I want a 5 in that variable. Can anybody help me? How would I be able to do that? How can I swap these two? Can I go num1 must get the value of num2 and then num2 can get the value of num1? Would that swap them around for me? Alright. Somebody wants to type. Okay, Ethan thinks it's fine. Radia, Shreya, what do you two think? Do you think this could? You don't think so? Alright, and the people that said no, you're actually right. Because look what happens here. We're giving number 2's value to number 1. So we give 3 to 5. That means number 1 is also 3 at this stage. So now when you give num1 to num2, you're just putting a 3 back into 3. So now at this stage, actually, both of them are 3. So the way we should think about it, a nice example that I always use, imagine you're at home and you've got two siblings, smaller brother, smaller sister, and your sister has got her favorite pink cup and your brother's got his favorite blue cup. Now both of them are very thirsty. After school, hot day, they ask for something to drink, and you know your brother only drinks Oros, and if he drinks milk, he's allergic to it. But your sister only drinks milk, and she's allergic to Oros. You look in the fridge, there's like only enough Oros and milk for one glass each. And you put the milk into the blue cup and you put the Oros into the pink cup. You give it to them, and then you can see, oh, there's big problems. It's the wrong way around. Your sister, in the blue cup, there's milk now, but your brother can't drink milk. And in the pink cup, there's Oros, and your sister can't drink Oros. And when you tell them, just use each other's cups, you know that's big fights because now you know all the cooties and all your brother can't take your sister's diseases and big fights. So what do you do? How do you solve that problem? Say again. Yes. So what we can do is we just create another variable. Let's say like temporary one. Then we can say this another variable, temporary one, gets the value of num1. Now num1 is stored inside temp. So now we can say, okay, num1 can now get the value of num2. And then we can say, okay, now we can give num2 the value of temp. So we're storing that value there. And then, so num1's value is stored now. So now we can give num2 to num1, which is fine. And then the temp one, that num1 that was stored, we can then give to num2. And that would swap them around. All right, so let's remember that. All right, so let's look at our algorithm. So how this thing works. This is one for loop. Our blue numbers are one for loop, and our brown numbers are another for loop. So we're going to use nested for loops. So I'm going to use, normally I use INJ. I like INJ, I like fishes. So INJ fishes. So we'll use INJ. All right, and then um, I want to tell my students, if you want to save yourself time and effort in tests, learn the structure of a sort. So a sort you basically always get until close to end of grade 12. And in grade 12 you'll get it every now and again as well. If you learn the structure is for if. So put a for, press tab, click inside there, say for again, press tab again, go inside there, say if with your brackets, and then what you can do is give all of them begins, that for loop a begin, that for loop a begin, this if a begin, and click enter and enter and enter for all your ends. So this is our structure for a sort. Always for if. Your first for loop, that's our blue one. So let's see the blue one. Okay, remember it started at 1 and it carried on until just before the end. If we had 5 numbers, it stopped at 4. So what we need to do here, so we want to start at 1, which is 0. Remember 0 is our first position. And then remember 9 is our last position. But for this one, we want to stop just 1 before the end. So 9 is the end, but we want to stop 1 before. You can write 8. I like putting the 9 just so that we remember it's 1 before the end. You'll see later on when we start working with an unknown amount of numbers, having to know this will help. So we start at the first value and we want to stop at just before the last value. Then our J for loop. Our J for loop. Let's look at our brown one. Our brown one started at the second one, but here it started at the third one, here it started at the fourth one. So can you see it always started one after the blue. Whatever blue was, it started one after the blue. And it went to the last one every time. So our J loop must start at I plus 1. So just one after the I loop. And this one must go to the end. Must go to 9. So our I loop started at the first one, stopped just before the end. While our J loop started just after wherever I was. If I was 0, it started at 1. If I was 1, it started at 2. It started just one after it, and it went to the last one. And then in our if, do you agree, we compared our rnum I, so we compared that number. We wanted to see if that number was bigger than our rnum at j. Because remember with this one, we compared each time the brown to the blue, brown to blue, brown to blue, brown to blue. So our J1 we compared with the I1, and brown to blues, the J1 compared to the I1. So we did all those comparisons. And then once we found that the I was bigger, the top one, when blue was bigger, remember we wanted them to swap. So now we'll use that temp variable we created. So our temp gets the value of our rnum at position I. So we save the blue one. Then our rnum at I can then get the value of our rnum at position J. So now we can put the brown one into the blue one spot. And then we can say our rnum J can then get the value of our temp. So this will swap them around for us. So with this, it is sometimes it's a bit tricky understanding this thing exactly. But if you can remember to study the structure for if, and then just a swap inside, then we're basically there. And then if you understood what I did here, that's exactly what happened in our coding here. Our first for loop was the one that we compared with, our blue one. This was the blue one. And then this one was the brown one. That every time we compared this one to that one, there we do our comparison. Comparing them all, and every time we found a bigger one, a smaller one than the blue, we just swap them around. And remember the swap I just explained to you, how that works. So rnum at I, we just save it, so that we can put rnum j into rnum i's place, and then we can put the temp into rnum j. Alright, any questions on this, or do you think you sort of got it? Remember, this is not the first time, so we'll practice this in nicely. We're going to do it like every time from now on. But any questions so far? Alright, that sounds good. The only problem with this is this would have sorted it, but now we haven't displayed anything yet. So it's nice to have just a separate display piece. That's what I always do. So I like to have my redisplay.clear. And then do you agree I want to display all 10 my numbers? So to display all 10, it means for loop. And I want to start at 0 and I want to go to 9. Oh, Radia, do you have a question, Radia? Alright, cool. And then we can just do our redisplay.lines.add with our int to string of our rnum I. Let's quickly see how this works, and then what did I do? Forgot a bracket. Okay. Let's see how this one works. So first we have to click one of these buttons. So let's do this one. There's our 2-digit numbers. So if I click sort, there you can see from 15, 23, 43, all sorted to 97. That's how our sort works. Yes, talk to me. Yes, so what do you think if this sort button sorted to ascending, if I tell you you can change one thing, it will become descending. Which thing do you think you can change or want to change? Alright, it's just our greater than sign. Because for this one, this does all the comparing for us. And we check if the blue one was greater than the brown ones to swap them. If we wanted descending, we'll just see if it was smaller than. So by just changing that sign, if I run it now, then just put some numbers in, click the button, now it's descending from biggest to smallest. Just a different sign. Exactly the same code. And we'll use this code if we want to sort, even when we want to sort words, we're going to use this code like strings. When we want to sort real numbers, same code. Same code always. We'll just our temp variable just needs to be the same data type. So if we're sorting words, it will be a string. If we're sorting real numbers, it will be a real. But it will be for if always. And that's why I tell everybody, when you get this in a test or exam, don't worry too much about the sign. Get your for if, do all this, do the swap, do the display, run it. Let's say they want it from small to big. And we did all that code. We quickly run it to test it. We put some numbers in, we sort it, and we see, oh, it's the wrong way around. Then you just go back and then you just change that sign to the other way around. You play it, you click your numbers, you sort them, and you see, now it's the right way around. So literally that sign is the only thing that changes it from ascending or descending. The rest is straightforward. So then to help you guys a bit, if you forget some things, if you want to forget this -1, it's okay. And if you forget the +1, that's also okay. Having them there makes it a bit better for the CPU because we lessen the amount of processing it needs to do. But this, if we play this now, it will still work 100%. The only difference is our CPU will do a little bit more calculations than needed. So he's sort of wasting his time. But as long as your J loop starts at I and then go to 9, and your for loop starts at, and your I one starts at 0 going to 9, then this will work fine. If you want to forget the +1 and the -1, then it's fine. This will work 100%.